hailing us from the USS Spacebook. Thoroughly sanitize your sentient parts and engage your warp drive for another episode of our YouTube exclusive, raw, unfiltered, as live Star Trek video podcast. What a mouthful that is. Yes, with me, Dan Hadley, Birmingham's King of the Geeks. And yes, the captain of this ship this time, who we're going to bring on board for our, long-awaited, for lots of different reasons, really, and savoured finale of Lower Decks. We're definitely going to be talking about that today. But yeah, we've got a crew to bring aboard. Who's with me this time? Yes, it's Warp Drive's very own Q, ready to make final judgment after a 10-week ordeal. It can only be Ian David Diaz, the Mega Geek.
Hello.
After that build-up, you just get this. We're recording this on a Sunday afternoon, so he's had a big Sunday dinner. He's loosened off from the belt, and he's back in his chair. Right. How are you, mate? Good?
I'm all right. Just looking forward to finishing this off and then moving on. Unfortunately, we have Discovery to go, but
yes.
Anyway.
This is the less than halfway mark. You never know; things could get better.
I hope so. Get better.
Really do. We'll have to find out. Speaking of which, yes, we'll have to bring in the next guy, bounding out of the usual wormhole, the resilient, the resplendent, the magnificent Sfila Betkin, the rabbi.
Oh my God! I assumed you go for the other guy.
I'll get him every time.
Me. I'll just relax. I'll put my feet up. Something else is going on. I've never been called resilient or resplendent, but I think I feel kind of resilient after watching. I literally just finished watching Lower Decks. Oh my gosh! Oh my God! Oh, I'm sorry. We're not talking about it yet. I'm sorry. Sorry.
Calm your dilithium crystals, my friend.
Oh my God!
Here's a tip, because whenever we bring the guest in, we make them come in last. You see, the guest chair, just to build it up a little bit for them, because they're the ones stepping into the breach. Speaking of which, yes, he's back again. After several times, some people just don't learn today. This actor, filmmaker, and podcaster, Star Trek and movie podcaster, Keith Isles.
Hey, hello.
Hey. I never get that. I always put my thumb out as well, so it makes it look like I'm sort of amphibian. No, it's not good. No, you. Oh, yeah.
Well, thank you for having me. Thank you for having me back.
I'll just say, you're all right, mate. Yes, how are you, Keith? How are things?
Yeah, very. Yeah, thank you for having me back. Always happy to join in on these discussions. So
really?
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I suppose that brings me to the very first, most obvious question. We're now at week 10 of Lower Decks. You can tell by the looks on our faces, sobered looks. Have you seen them all? Are you up to date? And where are you sitting with Lower Decks now? Now we're at the final end for now.
Was that for me?
It was.
Yeah, I watched. I saw the first 6 and I did a post on the first 6. So let's see what's out there. I missed 7 and 8, so I've not seen those. I did just watch back to back 9 and 10. I've seen the last 2.
That's terrible. You watch them together. Okay, when you're talking, you said I got to 6, and I know you love Star Trek, right? I know you love Star Trek, and I love your love for Star Trek.
Not this.
So I was hoping you're going to say you hadn't seen 10. I was going to say, please don't watch 10. It'll hurt. It'll actually cause you pain. Listen, are we up there yet? We're not talking about it yet, but I imagine it did. Wow. I imagine if you love Star Trek. Oh.
Well, before we get there, just so the rabbi gets a little bit more time to recover, what I thought we'd take a look at is the Star Trek news, because of course we have had Star Trek news this week. The New York Comic Con emerged out of the mists of the internet the other day. Not a Comic Con in the strictest sense as we used to. Of course, this was all online, and various studios and intellectual properties from all over geekdom, all over the world, were part of it with pre-recorded panels with various people on. And there was a Star Trek panel, everybody. I haven't watched the entire panel, I'll be honest, but I did see one particular reveal because there was a big surprise that CBS had kept under wraps. and I wondered if you'd caught it too. So yes, here's the upshot of it. I'm going to gear it up because yes, where is she? There. Yes, this was it. Kate Mulgrew is returning to the role of Catherine Janeway in brand new Star Trek as part of this Nickelodeon series, Star Trek Prodigy, which I think they're still deep into production of. I don't think it's remotely finished yet. Obviously, the voice work is yet to be done, or maybe they're doing it in lockdown. I don't know. But yes, Kate Mulgrew back as Catherine Janeway. And here's a little bit of the press release. It says Nickelodeon and CBS Studios today announced that Kate Mulgrew will reprise her role as Captain Catherine Janeway in Nickelodeon's all-new animated series Star Trek Prodigy. Additional casting news will be announced in the coming months. Kate Mulgrew herself says, I have invested every scintilla of my being in Catherine Janeway. Wow. And I can't wait to endow her with nuance that I never did before in Star Trek Prodigy. To be at the helm again is going to be a deeply gratifying experience in a new way for me. So that's, yes, she's very verbose there. Alex Kurtzman, who of course we deeply revere. Hi, Alex, if you're watching. Alex Kurtzman said Catherine Janeway was held to a different standard than her predecessors. Not quite sure about that, but that's what he says. She was asked to embody an inhuman level of perfection in order to be accepted as good enough by all the doubters. But she showed them all what it means to be truly outstanding. We can think of no better captain to inspire the next generation of dreamers on Nickelodeon than her. Yes, so that's from Alex.
What utter bullshit is he talking? What the hell? What universe did it come from? She didn't. What did you?
Yeah.
Nobody went, oh no, there's a female captain.
Yeah.
That's going to be nobody did that. Nobody said, oh, Cisco's black. Nobody did that except for these insane sexist racists. What is wrong with them? I was there. I watched the bloody thing. I was part of fandom. It never freaking happened. It's a lie.
Well, as I said, right, I think that people, what they're trying to do is they're trying to get their ignorance and lies as reality, and this is what Kurtzman's trying to do. He's trying to instill these things that never existed and trying to make it reality within the Star fandom and within the world. This is the whole problem of today. This is what people are doing. So I don't know. I sigh. There's nothing we can do about it. Just let them do their thing, right?
I'd noticed that Kate Mulgrew was a woman. You know, that's not necessarily bad of me. But it was far from observe it like that. But
fair. Let's also be fair. She was an incredibly annoying character, like that. Okay, like whenever she was talking, it was like this high pitched noise that made that. Like I think if she went on too long, it would just make your head explode. Scanner screen.
I didn't think she was too bad. I kind of liked her.
I know some people found the tone of her voice.
I didn't. Sorry.
I know some people found the tone of her voice, that sort of Katharine Hepburn gravelly tone, found that annoying. And I do appreciate that, but I liked it too. I thought it made her. We talked recently about how Kate Mulgrew is clearly one of life's eccentrics. Bless you, Kate, aren't we all? Yes, the performance. It was. Well, we're going to talk about that in a little while, but the performance was very particular, wasn't it? And I think it stayed.
I think she was one of the least favorite parts of. I mean, look, she was better than Kez. She was better than Kez, and she was better than Harry Kim. Okay, fine. I
don't know. I think you're being a bit hard on her. I think she was all right.
She wasn't annoying because she was a woman. She was annoying because she was an annoying person.
I know it's been 25 years, everybody, but whenever somebody says the word Kess, I still think of the little kid with the bird.
Yeah, with the bird.
Keith, how do you feel about the return of Catherine Janeway in animated form?
Okay, well, I mean, first of all, I loved Kate Mulgrew and the character of Captain Janeway. So I differ from you guys there. I'm pleased to see she's. But I'm pleased to see.
I'm pleased. Don't blame the other two. Don't tar these other two fine gentlemen.
No,
this is all me.
But here's the thing. I mean, what I find a bit odd with what they're doing with Star Trek at the moment is they seem to be They seem to be casting the net for Kurtzman and his team seem to be casting the net for this this franchise incredibly wide, because obviously we've just had Lower Decks, which is clearly an animated series, but let's be honest, it's definitely not aimed at kids. I think we're all agreed on that, if nothing else. But then I just think it's a really odd choice that we're now getting a Nickelodeon Star Trek show, a Nickelodeon Star Trek show. And it's like, okay, they're trying, I appreciate they're trying different things. I kind of get that, but it just sort of seems that they're all over the place, really. And I didn't know quite what to make of this, because I thought I'd really love to see Janeway back, but I would kind of prefer a live action. Exactly. I'd have preferred to see her.
Most people would.
If I have to tell you, if ever I do something really terrible, right? If ever I do something really, truly terrible, I want you to be the first person I do, because you put a good spin on anything. You know, you do well. It's it doesn't surprise me that Kate Mulgrew's back, because she's barking freaking mad in the same way that,
well, then she's not doing anything, is she? She's not in any TV show. She hasn't been acting for a time. Now, of course, she's going to say yes to this, but the mistake they're making is that instead of trying to create something that's Star Trek, their Star Trek, which they did, unfortunately, with Discovery, they're getting all these member berries in to try and save it. Now they realize not a lot of people are watching. They're sticking all these people from yesteryear into Star Trek, because they know that the real Star Trek fans are pissed off, and that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to say, "Oh, look, we got so-and-so. Oh, look, we got this, we got that." Yeah. And it just doesn't. Yeah, it's just,
this was the last time we saw Kate Mulgrew in continuity as
Catherine that was in the movie. With
Picard,
Nemesis.
Yeah, and I think people have been hanging on to the character ever since, because, you know, I think she's how can I put this? I wouldn't say she's divisive. That's not true. I don't think the character had that edge to it, but I think people, she's polarized people. People are either fiercely irritated by her or are really sort of warm towards her in the way that Keith and Ian are. You know, I certainly have no strong feelings one way or the other, but I always liked Kate Mulgrew herself. I like what she did in the role. As for her as a person, obviously I've never met her, but as you say, the thing, Rabbi, when people say those kinds of things publicly and without any how can I put this? Without any, she doesn't seem to have a filter. And I suppose you could respect that, but it's as if the stuff that she said publicly, it's like, everybody knows this is 100% true, and you cannot argue with me because I'm an actor, I'm an actress, like, I know everything. You know, I just don't understand that. It's best to just let them go, let them say their little bit in peace, and then afterwards we can decide if it changes the way we feel about them or the characters they once played. And I understand that it does for some people. I seem to still be able to separate that mostly, although one or two actresses.
Does anybody know what it's all about?
Yes, I did know. It's about, well, this is the thing, you see, because until recently, all we knew was that it was about a group of juveniles, a group of children. I don't even think they're cadets. I think they're actual teenagers. So they wouldn't even be at the academy yet, or maybe they're interns. And the idea is that they are shipwrecked out in space, and they come across, a little bit like Blake 7 actually, they come across some sort of sophisticated spacecraft, which they sort of make their home, and they've got to sort of find out how to use the technology to get back home, or to get, that's
and this how is a cartoon?
Yeah, it's quite a hard concept. I mean, the principle is 7 characters on a starship, so it's quintessentially Star Trek in that respect. But I don't know if I'm misremembering that, because I can't believe that they put.
No, this is clearly another pitch they had hanging around in the This is pre JJ Trek. This is from, I reckon, 2007, and it was like, you know what? Let's get a bunch of teenagers. And they get onto a starship, right? And then they don't know how to use it, and they gotta get home, and you have all the teen, and it's like a teen drama. and they basically made it into another show.
Yes, that's what it sounds like. It sounds like the 100 or one of those shows, Keith.
Yeah. So it's so clearly somebody pitched this idea to them, and that's what Kurtzman's doing. He's going through the files of anything that, because he can't. He is just incapable of commercial creativity. He's just unbelievable. Why can't you just hire someone who could write that? It's not hard.
The thing with Kurtzman is I don't care what he does with Star Trek anymore, and I don't care about Star Trek the brand either now. This is what they've all driven us to. And I'm indifferent now. I don't care anymore. I mean, Keith's excited about Discovery. I'm not. A lot of people are excited about Discovery. I'm not, because to me it's not really Star Trek, but I might go and watch a couple of episodes of Discovery, see the new one, see what it's like. Or with Lower Decks, it was just, for me, it was just a big waste of time. And I'm sure Prodigy is going to be a waste of time. So who are they aiming it at? Kids are not interested in Star Trek anymore.
This is firmly for kids, isn't it, Keith?
Yeah, I was going to say, if it's all we found out from the press release is pretty much what you said, Dan, and. It is. If it's Nickelodeon, it is clearly going to be aimed at kids, and they are talking about, apart from Janeway, a teenage cast and characters anyway, and they've the same team in terms of producers as Discovery and Lower Decks and all of that thing. Brought in. They did announce that they've brought in David Mack, who does a lot of the canon novels, to come in a writing team and a sort of consultant on this. I mean, this is only what Brannon Braga and Berman did this on Enterprise when they brought Judith Reeves and Garfield Reeves Stevens in, who had done novels with Shatner. He kind of brought them in as consultants. But the thing is, I'm not exactly saying this is supposed to be set, but one of the things, what I think, if they were going to do something with Kate Mulgrew and they were going to do it in animation, so obviously something that she wouldn't have aged out of, is that period between the end of Voyager and that picture you showed with her as an admiral in Nemesis. I would have, from the character point of view, I would really like to have had that area in between explored, simply because if Jane went back to the Alpha Quadrant, okay, I know we see her as an admiral, so she eventually got a promotion, but to be perfectly honest, she would be in a lot of trouble with Starfleet, because she broke how many of the prime directives to get back to where she was.
Trauma of her experience as well, and I
exactly
look at
PTSD. Yeah.
When I originally heard of the pitch for Prodigy and the synopsis when they confirmed it, I heard about this show quite a long time ago. I took it that this would be sort of like how Discovery's going, that this would actually be in the far future, and so when they've put it in Janeway's lifetime. Which, she's younger than Picard, obviously, but it must be around this. That has surprised me. I thought they were going for something that was very, very futuristic, but it seems not. So, I was surprised. And, I mean, maybe when we see the show, because I can't believe that they put Janeway in a situation again where she'd be lost in a hostile area of space again and have to get people home. That would seem rather cruel. Yeah. This keeps happening to this woman. So maybe I've got the synopsis slightly wrong. The nuance.
Well, no, I mean, they could bring her in. They could bring her in as an expert to, she could be there as a holographic version.
I was just thinking that.
Yeah, because he's an expert on how to get back.
Why is it that all the Star Trek brands, are on different channels? What's that all about? This is on Nickelodeon. The thing is on CBS. The other one's on Netflix.
Okay,
this one's on, you know what I mean? Why am I all on one channel so they can interact with one another?
When you go down any market, let's say you're in Wembley Market, right, and somebody has set up a dodgy stall with a Del Boy stall with a little thing, and he's selling tapes. And get out! He doesn't sell them all to the same person. He sells them out to whoever he sells them to whoever he can. Basically, that's the Kurtzman way. Yeah, that's the Kurtzman way of doing business. Just get this crap out there so I can justify my existence and continue my contract.
Look, if Star Trek, if Kurtzman's Star Trek was stable and everybody loved it, so they claim, right? They wouldn't have to do so many member berries in it. You know, I mean, if you look at Voyager when it started, it didn't have so many member berries. Look at
they deliberately ruled any member berries out, any recurring
exactly. And if you look at the Next Generation, they only had a few. Right, but what I'm saying is that they stood on their own 2 feet. Why is it that something like Lower Decks needs that? Why is it something like Prodigy need it? Because
it's shit.
The answer is that what the people behind the Star Trek thing is saying is untrue. It is not being supported by the fans of Star Trek. They know they're in trouble. That's why they have to bring in someone like
here's my belief about this. I think that, and Keith, you raised this with the fact that this is about kids, and Ian, you just sort of touched a little bit with the fact that kids aren't interested in this stuff.
They're not.
I think obviously this is pitched at kids, but in the back of their heads, I believe that they're not as confident in the power of this material as they are making out.
Not only this one, all of them.
Yes, I think that's true in their entire approach. Throw enough things at the wall and something will stick.
Yeah.
But with placing Catherine Janeway and Kate Mulgrew in this, what they're effectively doing is they're saying, okay, we can't guarantee that the kids are gonna turn out for this, are going to invest in this, but we know from past experience that if we pitch it in a certain way, even though we're not aiming the thing squarely at them, if we give the Star Trek fans a reason to be there and to join that deliberately, that they can't annex this show, they have to accept it if we place a major character from Trek lore at the dead center of that show. And that's why they've done this. And I think it's perfectly viable. Don't get me wrong. I don't think it's not necessarily a bad thing, but it is a realistic thing. And anybody out there who's snarling at us suggesting this isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's just a realistic approach and something they have almost certainly done. I believe it's clearly that.
That's exactly what they're doing. It's a shame that they're doing that, really, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of the management of all of this, and not just with the types of shows, but with the different networks and the fact that they're dabbling in different. We got animation, we've got live action, we've got all sorts of things going on. It does feel like it is very much a scattergun approach with this at the moment, because internationally, obviously, there's things going on with CBS and Paramount and the reemergence of that for starters. We've also got a new CEO who's appointed to Paramount and CBS now that's likely to shake things up slightly. Exactly. And also with the network committing overseas, like we're talking about Lower Decks, but let's be honest, Lower Decks has never been officially shown here in the UK yet. Obviously, Picard was on Amazon, Discovery's on Netflix. So it does seem to be, that they're sort of hedging their bets at the moment and sort of trying all sorts of things. And I'm not necessarily saying that's wrong, but it does sort of feel that, the team are sort of, Kurtzman and his team are just trying to struggle to just find something that works and pleases.
In other words,
everyone.
They failed, Keith. They failed at Star Trek, and this is the thing. You see, we'd had more respect for them if Kurtzman just said, "Look, I'm sorry, we've lost a lot of fans. Could you please tell us where we're going wrong so we can try and correct it?" But he doesn't do that. He basically lies through his teeth, together with this comment con thing, which everybody knows that when the comments are disabled, you're in trouble. The product's in trouble. Yeah, and so hold on. they're lying to us.
Let's just go back a little bit for the people out there who
Mm.
haven't seen this, Ian, because these
Yeah.
New York Comic Con panels, they premiere on YouTube, don't they?
Yeah,
And so you and I, all of us, can turn up and watch these panels whenever we choose, and the same way that you, hopefully, are now commenting, interacting, clicking the like and subscribing, doing all that. But you can do that on these videos. But in these panel videos, Ian, you have noticed this, haven't you? That they put these up and they disable the comment sections.
Yeah.
You would think that they would want audience interaction, but they've disabled it, haven't they? And how quickly did they do that?
They do it all the time. But what's really annoying to me, and I guess to the rabbi as well, I don't know about Keith, because Keith, you know, he's very positive about it, is what really annoys me is
here. You really do. I'm feeling the like the warm rays of your goodness.
No, but
black heart,
what's really annoying about these Comic-Con things is that when you got Kurtzman on and he's in a little square like I am, of course, and he talks about how positive everything is, it repels you. You just sit there and you go, I know you're lying. Why do you keep keeping up this pretense? It doesn't. Why don't you just tell us the truth? What's wrong with? It's like a politician. Politicians never ever tell you the truth, and now it's spreaded onto entertainment. It was never like this. It was never like this.
No. You know what it reminds me of. Ian, what it reminds me of. I was watching a few months ago. I was watching the extras for The Adventures of Baron Munchausen. Remember we did it on my
yeah, fun.
Right, and it had was it Eric Idle was in it talking, and he just mentioned off our Hancock and said, "Oh yeah, like the acting, the producers and writers, they lie through their teeth. Everybody working in movies, terrible, and they don't. And like he's like a normal person, right? And he's like, what the hell? And we're like normal people. Now we're suddenly sucked into this weird corporate entertainment entity, which is insanely incompetent, like criminally incompetent and completely immoral. I mean, like, and so us as normal human beings, we watch it and we go, what? How?
I was talking to somebody a couple of days ago, not online. This was sort of business related, off screen, and they'd recently been into the BBC, and they'd been talking to a manager at the BBC about potentially doing some work there. And they were talking to them on a one-to-one basis. The person they were talking to was a good 10, 15 years younger than they are. And they were talking about the day-to-day sort of production of television and things like that. And they mentioned the expression, they've got to get a DOP. And the person opposite them didn't know what DOP means.
That doesn't surprise me. That doesn't surprise me. That does not surprise me. I mean, how many? Keith could back me up on this, right? How many times have we been on production, Keith, when somebody above us doesn't know what's going on?
Oh yeah,
thousands of times, all the time.
Yeah, all the time, all the time.
Oh,
and to be honest as well, I mean, it's not quite the same, but Rick Berman was running Star Trek, which, let's be honest, there's no doubt about it, that was the most successful era of Star Trek ever, because you had two out of three shows running simultaneously for 18 years. You had 2 out of 4, sorry. You had movies, you had all sorts going on, but there was he came under a lot of criticism as well. It's just that was pre the internet, so there weren't these sort of forums bringing it out there. But he did, Berman, under a huge amount of criticism as I mean, the difference was Berman knew and worked with Gene Roddenberry for many years, so he kind of knew Star Trek from that perspective. Where
I mean, there was one other difference as well. That Rick Berman, I don't think, served Satan and brought him as sacrifices. I'm pretty sure.
Allegedly, the servants of Satan. We cannot confirm or deny this.
Strike me as a human being.
Talking about Rick Berman, I've watched some classic Star Trek this week, and I wanted to talk about it particularly at the moment because we are on the cusp, of course, of Discovery Season 3 launching. Never mind. How do we keep doing this to the poor rabbi? Oh dear, oh dear. We're questioning his faith at the moment. We're going to get him through this terrible ordeal. But yes, I've been thinking a little about Star Trek Voyager lately, because with Discovery about to launch, there's been a rumor put about, because obviously there was a trailer put out to Discovery a few weeks ago, and people have been examining that Zapruder style, the way that fans do, and TrekMovie.com have been all over that like a rash. In particular, they are confident that the Star Trek Discovery Season 3 has taken a major plot point from Season 4 of Voyager. They were talking about a phenomenon called the burn in that trailer, and they've put out this very elaborate theory here, and they've even given a disclaimer there saying this could include spoilers. So the trailer released last week for Discovery Season 3 made it clear that the galaxy has fallen on hard times by the year 3188, and the Federation has mostly collapsed. And they've got another quote from Alex Kurtzman there, which I won't bore you with. But it says, all that we know about the burn comes from there, and they believe the answers come from a surprising place from Star Trek Voyager. So with that in mind, I decided to go back to that episode of Star Trek Voyager, just in case it is going to prepare us for Series 3 of Lower Decks of Discovery. Sorry, what was that? What was that, Rabbi?
Of this episode whatsoever. Can you give me a hint? What was this one?
Yeah, I'm about to give you more than a hint. Here we are. Okay. Let me get this. Yes, where are we? Here we are. It is called the Omega Directive, from late in Season 4. And in case you're like the rabbi out there and you can't remember even seeing this thing, this was the Omega Directive, and it was written by Lisa Klink, directed by Victor Lobel. And the general plot went something like this: Catherine Janeway isolates herself from the crew of the Voyager when she receives sealed Federation orders. They dictate her to undergo a top-secret mission to destroy an element called the Omega Particle that's been tracked and marked as too dangerous to be allowed to exist. The Borg know of Omega 2 and have elevated it to this religious significance. 7 of 9 is drawn to study the same particle at all costs. Is your memory slightly jogged by that, Rabbi?
Yeah, is this the one where Harry Kim gets demoted from 2 of 9 to 8 of 9? When he takes questions, say, "I remember," they'll sound like that. I remember that.
That's right. Yeah. Apparently, this is quite a controversial episode with some of the hardcore Star Trek fans out there, because in this, throughout the process, they've got the religious iconography. It really plays into that, doesn't it? But you've also got this clear. I think it's the only example on screen where a captain has stated "forget the Prime Directive" on this occasion. So I've rewatched this. I'd totally forgotten about it as well, to be honest, Rabbi, and I hadn't seen a single episode of Voyager since Voyager finished.
Oh, wow! I haven't seen it for a while either. I guess going back, how was it?
I think
it's very entertaining. It's very entertaining.
Yeah, like Ian, the simple fact of the matter is, I was really, really entertained and engaged by this episode. I found the storytelling to be much more confident, cleaner, what they were trying to say, how they were trying to say it. It was all, I wouldn't say
all made logical sense.
It was simple, but yes, it was logical, and it was well staged. What they were trying to say was directed really with pinpoint sort of accuracy, really, to explore both sides to an argument in the same way that TOS episodes did, and kind of leave you in your head with a moral dilemma, in a sense, who you would side with, because this episode and the drama does directly put, and this is where it gets really interesting, because I've never cared for either character that much. I've always liked Jerry Ryan, but 7 of 9, I always been a bit 50-50 on it. But with this, when they bring the two characters, Janeway and 7 of 9, into direct, how can I put this? They bring them together because Janeway is also a woman of science. And I think that was always the interesting thing about the relationship between her and 7. It was quite finely balanced. So they're both technically women of science, but they come to a place here where they're drawn together, and Janeway understands why 7 wants to study this on one level, but obviously as a commanding officer, as somebody with a duty of care, which 7 doesn't feel to that extent. Janeway and her there. That's where their interests sort of start to turn from mutual to being at almost loggerheads. So I thought that was very, very interesting.
Do you think that reflects their? By season 4, they had a very deteriorating relationship. I think it got better.
Well, Jerry Ryan only joined at the beginning of season 4, so I think I don't think it ever really got better until after the show had ended. I know very little.
Be in the same room because she hated her.
If anything, that could have informed the performances and made them better. Sorry.
Yeah, I do like this episode, and one of the things I do like is Jerry Ryan's performance in this. She's very much like Spock in this. She's very much wants to do her thing, but she's, she concedes when Captain Janeway says no, we have to do this, this, and this, and then she realized that she's now under the command of
they turned
Janeway.
That tension. They turned that tension.
Yeah, that was a good.
And also, sorry, just let me just say one thing, right? I love this interpretation of 7 and 9, right? It's so I don't know. I think it's perfect because she was a human, then she became a Borg, and now she's this in between thing. And then when we got Picard, it was something else. Anyway, I won't go down that route, but I just like to say I like her.
Did you notice, Ian, how rather than say like how the Borg? I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
How the Borg introduced themselves and say, "We are Borg." She kept stating, "I was Borg." Little things like that about the character that I'd forgotten in the last nearly 2 decades because I haven't been anywhere near Voyager since that final episode.
She's very controlled in this episode, isn't she? She's very controlled, and she's very, she wants to learn, and she kind of considers this thing a religious experience for her and all that.
I'll tell you who it reminded me. I'll tell you, Rabbi, from a more recent point of view, what it reminded me of was at the very beginning of Discovery between Captain, what was the name? The Captain played by
and Burnham. That first episode, I quite like. Yeah, the first few episodes, I quite like
that conflict between the two of them, between Burnham and the Captain. I can't remember the Captain's name.
Giorgio.
Captain Giorgio. That's it. Yeah, how they position those two characters. I think they had to have been trying to emulate that to some degree, not necessarily because they're women, but because they've got that sort of the mutual interest and belief in their standard up to a point, and then there's that flipping of the script a little.
There's a fascinating thing I've noticed watching with the new Doctor Who being so awful that it's made all the old Doctor Who, even the ones I didn't think I would like that much, so much better.
Yes.
So I'm really intrigued.
Rabbi, this is the Star Trek stream, mate. Let's leave Doctor Who out of it.
The same principle applies.
Is the same effect happening with Star Trek? Like, can I go back and watch Voyager, which I thought was okay? Wasn't like I liked Deep Space Nine. I thought Voyager was like it gave me a Star Trek-y feel. I didn't dislike it. I didn't love it. But with this episode, right? It's very much talking heads, and it's two heads. It's Janeway and 7 of 9, right? It's that kind of thing. Okay, today I guess I'm only guessing this Star Trek will not survive today because as people say that people's attention spans are really short now. If they start watching a talking heads thing, they'll just like. Especially the young kids. That is nonsense. You put quality out, people watch quality.
No, you're talking for yourself. I've got my sister's got kids,
and
they don't watch TV. They watch YouTube.
Can I step into the middle of that point? I think the truth is somewhere between. I think that good stuff does grab still, and
of course it does.
And I think depending on how it's pitched, any age group. Too, and there was something really fundamental about this, which has certainly been lost now. Exactly like you, Rabbi. I think I just watched too much Star Trek at the time. I think the same people had made a little too much Star Trek at the time. It had become that sausage factory. But I found this so refreshing. It's held.
But that's us. We lived in those days, didn't we?
I'm talking now. Me now in 2020. I was considerably more gripped by this than the 25 minutes of Lower Decks we'll talk about in a little while.
What year was this roughly? I can't remember.
This was 1997. This was originally screened. No, 98. Early 98. Sorry.
Mm.
Right,
But as
right.
I said, right, it's a different ball game today. Look, I don't know about you, right, but my sisters, I've got 3 sisters. They have kids, and I see what they do when they're watching TV. They're on their phone, right? And if they're not watching TV, they're watching YouTube. And if they're watching YouTube, they're playing computer games. That is the generation of today. That's why. Yeah, that's why a lot of people who make new shows today, that's what they're thinking of. They're thinking of that generation. So they think they have to speed things up, so they won't. If they tune in, they won't get disinterested. That's what I'm saying.
You know what they should really do? They should find YouTube creators to write Star Trek. Because they know, have to make content balance right.
It'd be terrible. It'd be terrible if what we're witnessing at the moment would be the sort of the death throes of feature length entertainment, wouldn't it, Keith?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I agree with what you're saying. I really enjoyed Voyager anyway. It was a show that I liked, but I particularly liked episodes that featured this contentious relationship between Seven of Nine. I always enjoyed, but what I mean is I really enjoyed the episodes with her and Janeway. And what I found interesting watching this, and it just goes to show you again how the story was quite compelling, is this was actually it wasn't totally a bottle show. They do beam down to the thing. However, all of the transport effects happened off screen with this, so you never saw anyone beam, so they were saving money there. It only had a couple of guest stars. There weren't that many guest stars in this episode. And they used to do that quite a lot in Voyager to save money. They used to have bottle shows and fewer guest stars and all this. But what they always did in those cases was really, really, really focus on story and character. And this is one of the things, even though they dropped the ball sort of conceptually with Voyager in terms of what it could have been, having these two crews, two halves of the crew at odds with one another and being lost in the galaxy and potentially running out of resources and all this. They did sort of drop those balls with Voyager, but what they did do focused on some really good character stuff, like with the Doctor and with Janeway and with Seven of Nine.
This episode was this episode was a particularly good episode for Janeway, just as you were describing.
Yeah. I mean, and again, one of the reasons I'm excited that Kate Mulgrew is back, I just wish, we haven't seen the show yet, but a kid's cartoon doesn't really sort of do it for me. This is the kind of Star Trek I enjoyed. This episode of
look at Janeway's face there. She's emoting such a lot there.
I remembered the good parts of a character. Like when you put it was like that, scientific questioning and drive. That picture really captures it.
Here's a quote as well. This is a line that I really liked from it that she delivers, and she just judges it perfectly. She says, "The final frontier has some boundaries that shouldn't be crossed, and we're looking at one." Because that's what she says to Tuvok, Tuvok's her confidant on the ship, isn't he? They've worked together for years and years and years.
I never did like Tuvok.
I always liked Tuvok.
I don't like him for some reason.
I think it's the way that Tim Russ plays him. I think it's a very odd performance at times. I found it very difficult to connect with that character, which I suppose could be the point of a Vulcan. But what do you think, Heath?
I'm coming a little biased here because I've always loved Voyager, and one of the things I loved about Voyager were the characters. So I think that Tuvok is another great character, a character that has great scenes in this one with Janeway that is usually fairly underserved as a character, was actually Chakotay. And what I really liked in this episode is Chakotay is her first officer, and he does absolutely challenge her on this.
He does,
which again, makes sense. It made story sense, and it worked, and it was a piece of drama. So you know, I mean, yes, they had a little bit of comic relief with Harry Kim and the Doctor and those sort of things in there, but generally this was a fairly serious episode, and certainly for the likes of Janeway and her relationships, whether they're with Seven of Nine, Tuvok, or Chakotay, you know, I think it worked really sharply and intriguing.
Do you know what really amazed me about this whole of Voyager and the whole Star Trek TV shows is that they never dumbed down on the effects. Like when you used to watch Battlestar Galactica, they used to replay the same special effects all the time. You could see it. But with Voyager, even in this episode, they're all new effects, you know, with the things we're shooting at the Voyager ship, and you know, they're all made for this episode. And
there was
more
reuse,
up, didn't they?
I think there was more reuse going on than we were aware. I think they were very resourceful.
They could, but the thing is, they could replace stars, they could put a planet behind it and stuff. Once they got the green screen, they can do that. But that's unlike Battlestar Galactica. They literally reused a shot of a ship going left, or ship, and you could tell.
The original Battlestar.
Exactly. The original one. Sorry.
Rabbi?
Shots every episode. You did that in TNG in the first few years as well. I think the reason Chakotay was never really took off. I think
he was boring.
Didn't he like really hate Star Trek and like?
I don't know.
Star Trek. It was like the job. Very, very like he took the job, but he just bitched about it at every opportunity he could.
He was very dull. His character was very dull, in my opinion. I don't know about you guys.
They rolled him down
when he
wasn't working out. By the way, although he had the best gag ever when Q turned up and he wanted to have a bigger tattoo. That was the best gag he did.
I think Chakotay was supposed to be contained, and I think that was how it was written. But I think that they almost just let that define the character to the point, and the actor, sorry, Robert, if you are watching, the actor very, very quickly, a couple of seasons in, looked bored out of his brains.
It was less than
and I think he just kept taking the money and saying, "Yeah, thanks. I'll go and buy myself something nice. I'll see you next week." And
they didn't serve him quite as well as some of the other characters. And actually, talking about Star Galactica, you jogged my memory. Actually, one of the things I did think when I watched this episode was the I can't remember what the name of the species were that they encountered on this, that were doing the experiments with the Omega molecules. But the fighter ships that they had, that they chased Voyager in, looked to me very much like the original Cylon Raiders. I don't know whether you guys thought that. I thought they had a similar design.
A bit. A bit. Yeah. I mean, I do like Voyager. I mean, it wasn't one of my favorite ones. I prefer Deep Space Nine to Voyager. But the thing is, though, as I said, you can't fault the old Star Trek because they had solid stories. Majority of the stories were solid. You know, this one was very solid. You know, it wasn't anything that you questioned you questioned a few things, but unlike today's Star Trek, which doesn't make any sense.
It turned out to be the that like metal goo stuff from the year before. Remember that? But what was that?
That was good.
On the he takes on the Voyager people, and then that whole episode you work out it's them, and they somehow Voyager's double back now and finds them at the end as like a clown, right?
And you know what was really clever with that is for a load of episodes before that, suddenly I got annoyed because I'm always annoyed about little details with this. Tom Paris's rank changed, and I was. That doesn't make any sense. You know, he wasn't. And apparently it made sense because it turned out that the crew that we were watching for that particular one weren't the original crew before he got demoted and all this sort of thing. And it was like, okay, so really that even made sense, you know.
That's really clever. Wow.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. You know, the old Star Trek was cohesive. It was very solid, and the even though some fans had a bit of problems with this, with some of it, you know, and there were little arguments here and there. Because I remember when I used to meet people and we used to argue over Voyager and Deep Space Nine and stuff like that. We weren't poisoned. We weren't beating people up because of it. We weren't doing that.
we could disagree, and it was
exactly.
fine,
It was fine.
you know?
It was fine.
Yeah, like,
But one thing we all agreed is that we liked the shows, right? It wasn't like like as I said with Picard, I hated Picard because it was just awful from start to finish. There was nothing redeeming about it at all. And no one that I met in that era would say that Voyager was rubbish, or Deep Space Nine, or the Next Generation. None of them would say as deeply as what we say about these new ones.
There was effectively taking bits out of it. But yeah, I just worked out a solution to how Kirk fits into original Star Trek, right? I just worked it out. Year of Hell. You remember every time the show guy makes it. These are all with different iterations from when he changed the timeline, get changed from there. That explains the entirety of Trek. Now I understand it.
I think that with this episode, the major thing that I noticed was the fact that I was watching, engrossed in this episode of Voyager, truly engrossed, and really appreciated those characters and how classic the characters of Seven and Janeway were. They had that sort of Spock, and I don't know if maybe if it was McCoy and Spock rather than Kirk and Spock. I'm not quite sure, but there was something very, very quintessentially Star Trek about it, very classically Star Trek about it. I love that. I also liked that. I also like the fact that it was never once mentioned the fact that they were female and there was some major.
It was never a thing once. Then, was it? No. We just it was
just great characters
on about back. Nobody went out the fact that Kate Mulgrew was the female captain, and nobody went on with the fact that Sisko was black. You know, they were just the characters.
And in that episode, there wasn't a single line of dialogue where somebody would cut their eyes at one of the male characters and say, "Well, you would say that," or "He's a man." There was nothing like that. Nothing like it at all. It was just characters working together towards a common the common goal, which is all that Star Trek is supposed to be. And surely what we really want the future of humanity to be like, across genders, across races, across geography, certainly, and religion, all that sort of thing. It reminded me how good Star Trek could really, really be.
But you can tell, right, let's just to give an example with Picard, you can tell they were making up as they go along, or they changed things as they were going along. It was so obvious when you look at it. But with Voyager, you can tell that script was basically, solid, and they were all happy with it, and so they shot it. Do you know what I mean? Unlike when you watch the new Treks today, you can tell that they've shoehorned something in, or or changed something because this was happening, or stick some the politics in there, whatever. You can tell that they're shoehorning these things in, and it's not, the story's doesn't feel natural. It feels squashed in with something that shouldn't be there. As I said, it's a pleasure to watch something like Voyager and any episode of Voyager, because it is a solid writing, it's solidly performed, and it's solidly shot. What else can you say?
But Berman did run a fairly tight ship with the Star Trek shows, and you've got to.
I don't think it's just that. I think the attitude in Hollywood, the status quo in Hollywood and the entertainment industry then was there was a certain standard that your script needed to reach for it to be professional, and that standard's been eroded over about 20 years until we have the pack we have now, which is just it's like I'm a big fan of that was such a YouTube channel, Red Letter Media, right? Who I empathize with them completely because they're reasonably intelligent people, and if you're a little bit smarter than average, you ended up gravitating to Star Trek when you're a kid because you're a nerd, right? And the science of it, interest, and your brain will put it together because you're a little bit smarter. And now you look at Star Trek now, and like in television in general, but Star Trek, it really stands out because you see how stupid it is, like how unbelievably stupid. Like how did they? I don't understand how they let that major plot point that in the Mirror universe it was lower lighting for like 4 episodes or so, and then they forgot it was a major plot point. They forget like the entire Star Trek Discovery season 2. makes no sense. And you, when you catalog, why did Spock go crazy? Why did it? But did it Leland the AI? Is the AI sentient? Is it not sentient? If it's not sentient, how does it want to be? How does something that's not sentient have a desire to be sentient? How is sonar working in space? Yeah, things that you never got in Star Trek because it was made by slightly more intelligent people than your average dummy.
I think that's fair enough. But before we leave Voyager behind 100%, I wanted your gut instinct, gentlemen. Do you think that Trek Movie are onto something there, and that episode of Voyager will have something to bear on the new series of Discovery?
I wouldn't be surprised.
Who cares?
Wouldn't be surprised.
That's kind of how I just feel like I've had an hour's worth of great Star Trek entertainment. I don't really care whether it does or not. Sorry, King.
Yeah. No, I mean, I don't know exactly. I've been trying to avoid spoil Discovery season 3, so I don't know exactly in what context they're linking this. But if it works, I don't mind retroactive continuity if it works and it makes sense. What I really object to is retroactive continuity when it doesn't make sense, like all the things we've talked about in Discovery, where they just say about, oh, we're going to redact that from history and all this sort of thing, which that was just kind of a poor fix, you know. So yeah.
Well, the thing is, though, you can't support
when they met each other. They'll say, "Wonder what happened to Michael." Like, you know, you would have thought, no,
exactly.
You know, the thing is, though, I can't support something that is literally going out their way to destroy what we loved, the past of the actual structure of Star Trek. And this is exactly what they're doing. And this is one of the reasons why, okay, you know, Discovery might be really great, but it's been destroyed and it's been redone. You know, they've taken the past and they've turned that into the way they want to turn it in, and it's been infiltrated by all this stuff. So my like for Star Trek is kind of dissolving now because of that. And when I watch, even if this show is really good, my heart will still be low because of what they did in the past.
Speaking of low, you've been low. I'm afraid, everybody. It's time to go. It's time to go lower. It's time to go lower still. Yeah, I've got to stop you there. And we do have to connect with the animated series of Star Trek that has just ended this week, depending on where you are in the world. It's been on CBS All Access. If you're in North America, obviously, everybody else has had to sort of imagine it really into existence by whatever.
Don't imagine it. Don't do it yourself.
But
move on.
Yes, this has been the season finale this week of Lower Decks Season 1, No Small Parts. It's written by Mike McMahon, who's the showrunner, head writer, and directed by Barry J. Kelly. In this one, Boimler spills the beans on Ensign Mariner's secret, how she's actually Captain Freeman's daughter. Big shocker. Meanwhile, Rutherford tries out some new functions of his implant, and Ensign Tendi teams up with a newly transferred crew member who's struggling to find her feet in the unforgettable season finale of Star Trek Lower Decks Season 1. Guys, who wants to start this one off then?
Listen. I mean, I'd like to say that this episode wasn't too bad, to tell you the truth, and I like the ending especially because Purplehead Man got what he wanted, and he seems to have grown up at the end. In the last line, he says when he leaves with the new crew, and what's her name's trying to contact him, says, "Don't worry, she'll get over it." And I thought that was really nice.
To like it because they're setting up,
but not all is great.
Take all that away from it. Yeah, okay, you had that good part. I hear that, but then you had Riker. And you had Troy, and I have no idea. Right, even though they're clearly voiced by Marina Sirtis and what is that?
Jonathan Frakes.
They're clearly those characters, both visually and in terms of their character, bore zero relationship, zero relationship to the characters. The Riker that we saw in Picard was the high point on Picard because he felt like Riker. right?
Here they were heightened, weren't they, Svi? That's what you're saying.
They weren't heightened. They I mean, how are all they suddenly like they're in their 20s again?
Like everything was. Yeah, that's true as well. And let's get this out of the way because yes, Riker and Troy do turn up in this. Riker turns up at the end in a pretty much beat for beat repeat of the performance and the place, the purpose in the plot that he served at the end of Star Trek Picard. He swoops in on a starship and pretty much saves the day.
Not the same performance though. The performance he gave in Picard was like that was true
for the character.
Was it half a second where he showed up and you stopped seeing the stupid design of the ship, which looked horrible, right? And they all looked the same because they were cheap and morons and they didn't know what they're doing. But that bit where he goes, "Where was Hart?" and I was like, yes, that was the bit I love. Yeah, that. And then, I really thought they could make a series around Riker on that one line, which really sold it. And then he turns up in this, and he's like this weird, goofy, sexed up person who obviously knows Mariner and looks nothing like
that's
Riker.
terrible. Yeah,
she knows everybody, doesn't she?
Yeah, she does.
Mariner seems to know absolutely everybody.
Unforgettable. If I could get a lobotomy, a backstreet lobotomy to forget this, I would go.
Keith, you've done the 2 episodes this afternoon, haven't you? So, go on, what's...
I watched them a couple of days ago, and I did watch them back to back, and I'm having sort of trouble remembering which one was which kind of thing. What I will say to start positive is the last 2 episodes I did find some amusing. I've got honest. There were bits that made me chuckle and stuff, so that was good. But as I said, I don't look at this now as Star Trek canon anymore. I look at it, as I said, as a ironic in-universe show that they watch. That's the only way I can. It's the only way I can make it work. So you know, and I did like the whole fact they were kind of in a movie within the movie. Was that it? This episode where they were?
No,
in a movie
that was the last week's. That was last week.
That was the one before. I did kind of like that. And did we got Badgie back? We get Badgie back?
Yeah, that's this one. That's this episode.
They set up in a previous one.
We suspected that would happen, didn't we?
But I don't care really, to be honest. I mean, I watch it, I watch it on a computer rather than on my big screen TV. Yeah. And, I'm sort of half watching it and doing what your niece is doing. And I'm checking my phone at the same time and I'm doing something else. Whereas when I watched Voyager, which I also watched the same day, I was absolutely glued to that box watching it, and with the lights off and my phone put away, and I was engaged. Excuse the pun.
My attention definitely wavered watching this. I don't know why.
Sorry, mate. Also, this whole thing about trying to keep the secret between the mother and the daughter, it meant nothing in the end. Absolutely nothing. Why did they build it up to it meant absolutely nothing? You thought there was going to be court-martialed or something. They weren't allowed to do that on Enterprise, but it meant nothing.
Whatever.
Absolutely, it was like whatever, wasn't it? It was like, what? Oh, Jesus. Why did they keep it secret? It's pointless. It was pointless.
I found Tendi to be becoming a more and more annoying and stupid character. I hated the member bearers. I hated the exocomp. I hated the return to the TOS planet. I hated the expression why they called TOS the original science. Whatever.
Those old
scientists.
Those old scientists.
I was kind of amused. I'm not going to lie.
I hated the wink to the Star Trek animated series.
Yeah,
you saw it on the pad. I hated the Titan. That oh God, how you. Oh,
Rabbi, you hate a lot of things.
Most terrible. Here's how I am about it. I feel that with this episode, most of the things that have irritated, frustrated, and bored me about the entirety of season 1 of Lower Decks, they were all turned up to 11 during this episode. But on the other hand, as Ian said, there was a certain amount of character growth, albeit cynically sort of trickled out at various points, and there was some degree of promise for where it could go potentially in the future. I don't necessarily think that's what they're going to do with it. I think that within an episode of any season 2, we'll end up with default settings being returned to, and I think that the pattern of the average episode will remain the same. I think this was the exception rather than the rule, and it was strange because I like the fact that just like on the last episode, the plot, there was only one plot really going at any given time, but there were different people with their own not agendas, but with their own tasks at hand and interpersonal relationships going on within that. So I appreciated that a bit more. In fact, I think this was slightly longer. I think this was a good 2 or 3 minutes longer, which does really help something like this. But again, it was still obnoxious. It was still loud. The moment there should have been a few minutes at least room for real drama between. There's nothing wrong with putting drama in something like this, particularly if you're not aiming at it, kids. In spending a bit more time with that question that they've seeded since the very first episode, and less time going back to that episode of TOS with the whole Landru thing.
They still had a go at
that and overturning that as well, overturning an achievement of the original Enterprise.
But did you not notice? Sorry, mate. Did you not notice that they still made Purplehead Man an idiot? Because there was one scene where he said to her, "I don't want to leave here because you're my friend," and then he does it, right? Which what does that say? That he doesn't. Yeah, exactly. But on the other hand, I thought it was quite nice that he got one up on her at the ending.
Yeah,
so I mean,
he's going to destroy his career, and he's going to be back on the Cerritos.
Yeah, of course. And if this goes to season 2, that is. If it goes to season 2,
honestly, I can't believe there's going to be another season of this. I can't believe they said there's going to be Discovery, for like forever. Like, can they just please go bankrupt or sell Star Trek to anyone, anybody else? Send it to the Taliban. They can't be any worse. I forgot Packheads as well. Really, the Packheads. Really, that's where you're going to go with it. Oh my god!
Who got killed in this one? Who's the guy?
The Bajoran guy in the middle.
Bajoran, who cares? I remember the thing I hated most about this episode. The thing I hated most was that how Mariner was proved to be right to be an insubordinate, insane pain.
Yeah. I noticed that.
And she saves the day, but it's people who have no understanding of Star Trek writing Star Trek, and I hate it. I hate it, and I'm not even that big a Star Trek fan.
Yeah. But the real problem with this Star Trek is that they're trying to mirror what's happening in the real world and putting it into the shows, right? So, Orange Man, Bad Dads, the female agenda and all that stuff. And even though the old Star Treks took bits from our world and put it into the episodes, they didn't make the whole episode one big political statement, did they?
I'll tell you why that. I'll tell you why that was. I'll give you one of my Danisms here. I often repeat this, but I'm going to say it again. I say this a lot on Type 40, the Doctor Who show, but I'm going to say it again because it applies here. Because those episodes in TOS, they were topical and not political. That's
right.
That's the major difference. And when they do this, and giving us these, you were just talking about Rabbi, about this whole thing with Mariner and stashing contraband, and you've got Sulu's sword there in the hands of Boimler, and various other bits and bobs. And I can take that or leave it. It's nice in one respect, but these things would hit home and they would amuse me and they would delight me a lot more if I felt that it was earned. And I'm sorry, I still don't feel that they've earned the right to subvert, to memberberry to this extent. When there's other things, the task at hand in selling us these characters, even when this is as regards character beats, this should have been the mother load. This should have been the big revelation. And they treat it like that at the very, very end. But it's as if it's a coda to a completely different episode to the one that we've just bloody watched. And, putting the Packleds in there, reasonably amusing characters from TNG that were only in one episode. It's the same with the Exocomp. We saw the Exocomp there in its medical, little things like it's all well and good, but at the end, it's no substitute for good storytelling and decent characters. And the fact that it's animated doesn't make it any different. The fact that it's aimed at well, whoever it's aimed at. Whole series in, guys. I still don't know who this is for, and I don't think I can confidently say they don't know who it's for. Either.
That's why they haven't sold it to anyone.
Exactly. Still no deal. We're a series in, so you'd think
whatever their next thing's going to be.
If this had made a cultural impact, though, Rabbi, just in the States, just in North America, if this had made a cultural impact, by now there'd be that much buzz and word of mouth towards the end of the first season that some bugger would have picked this up.
Yeah, it generated a buzz. The buzz is avoid at all costs. This is all. Yeah. It's hard. I just, I've always wanted to see a Titan, movie series, mini series.
But this is the thing, Rabbi. This is what they've done, isn't it? They've basically everything that fans want. They've not given it to them at all. I mean, you just said it yourself, Rabbi. It would have been great to see Riker come back with even Diana Troy. That series would. I mean, I'm sure the fans would appreciate that. I mean, if Kurtzman made it, obviously Diana Troy would be slapping down Riker loads of times in every episode. I mean, we know that's going to happen. But it'll be a pleasure to see Jonathan Frakes back in the chair.
Yeah,
it'd be amazing.
I don't have to. I wish a company like Big Finish, who do like audio productions, would get the rights and do a Titan box set. For like, I mean, that would be freaking
with Jonathan Frakes and Marina Sirtis.
Yeah, God. That would be great. That would be. I'd love to see that. Oh, listen to that, should I say? But I mean, my thought on this was, I absolutely agree with what you're saying about the. The obnoxious characters that haven't earned anything and all of that sort of thing. And it was the same beats and, all that. What I will say was I was surprised by the ending in the fact that I was surprised that we do this thing on Let's See What's Out There where we do predictions of where we think something's going to go. And I said, basically my prediction is that Boimler's going to continue to look a complete and utter putz and an inept idiot. And Mariner will continue to be great. And that was it. That was my only prediction. But instead, we do have Boimler getting a promotion, being assigned to the USS Titan. Never saw that. And also a death of one of the main bridge characters, which, again, I was surprised by. No, I mean, I didn't care, but I was surprised nonetheless. Yeah. It was like, but other than that,
fact,
I mean, as I said.
In fact, in my opinion, he was one of the characters who, in subsequent episodes, I was hoping to see more of. So it's one less reason for me to watch season 2. Sorry, Keith, I interrupted.
There you go. No, absolutely. But I mean, this isn't. As I said, I struggle with this. Is Star Trek? I can only look at it as a in-universe parody, and that they were taking the Mickey out of Commander Riker and Deanna Troy, Captain Riker and Deanna Troy. They were taking the Mickey out of them,
I love that was the fact that.
Wait a minute, I just worked out a way how it could work. Okay, the problem I had with your theory is this: people who are in the Star Trek universe wouldn't like watching this show. They would they would be offended by it. This is a show. This is the hit show on Ferenginar. This is where it is.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
They laugh at the humans. Look at the human.
Yes. Human. Yes. Now, I mean, the fact that I've missed 2 episodes of this series and I'm not even bothered speaks volumes. Keith, it does. Yeah, no, I'm a completist. Yeah, and yes, I like to see everything. I like to see it in the order that it's supposed to be seen. I like to see it without interruptions, all of those things. And that hasn't applied, sadly, to Lower Decks. I've just kind of piecemealed it together, and I've been mildly amused in places, but that's it, really. I can't really say
I think I've chuckled. I certainly throughout the entirety of season 1, I'm not into double figures yet with the amount of times I've even chuckled. And that's, I'm sure that's not ideal. That can't be what you wanted, I think. Surely not. I do like that the Titan was there. I haven't read those books, the Simon & Schuster Titan series, which I think have been going for a good 20 years, where Riker and Troy are aboard that ship. So I know people have invested in that, so much so that the Starship was designed by a fan. I've got his name here, Sean Turanganu. He designed this ship, and it's been originally put onto the covers of some of the Titan books, some of the later ones.
Did they stick to that design with the
Near
Titan
enough.
that they showed us in this show? Yeah,
I think there are slight refinements, but it's basically the same.
Different, by any perchance?
Who knows, Sean? If you're out there, if they haven't stuck to your original design, if you're a bit put out, come and talk to us about it. I'm sure you'll find sympathetic ears. And so seeing Troy and Riker, that did surprise me, but kind of like you saying, Rabbi, I mean, I think it's all meant to be a heightened universe, which is what makes it so annoying. But when it's somebody like Riker, and we've already been only so recently, earlier this year, seeing a version of this kind of thing play out, it does feel a bit hollow. It does feel a bit superficial. I'm sure that Frakes had a good time. He always looks like he's having a good time. He seems like a lovely guy. I really like Jonathan Frakes, always have. And I know the spirit of it was probably pure enough, but it did seem like a weird way to end the season with him basically bailing them out. Like the inside of the spaceship there, the inside of the USS Titan. I think that was quite nicely done. And there we have Kirk and Spock from the original series, which I actually think that was quite a nice touch, including the original animated series. In that, it's a member berry that I appreciate and think was probably quite nice.
Had they not spent the last 10 weeks just taking a massive piss on Star Trek, right?
That's
fair
enough.
And it irritated me to no end. It would have been, I'm very negative about it because they've just done such a terrible, terrible job.
It is true. Why isn't he the age that he was supposed to be? Why have they made him so young?
He had a bit of a
neither of them are they?
No,
but Nemesis, he's just not in that svelte costume anymore, right? And then
I mean, this is supposed to be the year following Nemesis, isn't it? This is 2380.
Yeah, well,
This is 20 years before we see him in Picard. Yeah.
Well, but he was still quite big though. In Nemesis, wasn't he? He was kind of he wasn't thin.
We love you, Frakes. Come and talk to Warp Drive. Come on the show. We'll have a laugh.
Well, the thing is with Frakes and the rest of them, they all need work, don't they? So none of them are going to slag off any of what Star Trek is doing.
And with something like this, Ian, you know as well as I do, they don't know how this is going to turn out, do they?
No, they don't. And also the fact, as I said, right, with any show that's being, what does Gary say? He says it's not entertainment anymore. It's educational. They're trying to educate us rather than entertain us. That's what they're doing. So, what can you do?
I haven't seen. Has Gary Beacle been watching this on Nerdrotic? Have you been watching Lower Decks, Gary? I haven't seen any reviews from you on this. I'd love to know what you think. Get in touch. Come and talk to us on Warp Drive. I think we'd enjoy that. Love to know what he's got to say. But it's unarguable. And I think when you're looking, Keith, let's see what's out there. You talk about Star Trek completely, all of Star Trek, all the time. So I've just got something to share here. So, but when you look back across the legacy of these characters, particularly somebody like Riker, and the TOS people being dropped in there, but seeing Riker again and Troy again and hearing their voices, that should take you back to that place. It should give you the warm fuzzies, shouldn't it? It should connect with something primal about being a Star Trek fan. But it doesn't. It just doesn't quite work, does it? And I don't think that's the animation's fault.
No, it's not.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I mean, it was, it's a nice touch that they put the next gen theme in there and all this when he shows. But again, you're absolutely right. I mean, it was he came to save the day in very much the same way as he came to save the day in Picard. But obviously, it was all fun poking the whole way, wasn't it? And the voices they did, because to start with, I was thinking, is that somebody doing a Jonathan Frakes impression, or is that Jonathan Frakes? And then, of course, in the end credits, you saw that Jonathan Frakes and Marina Sirtis did indeed reprise the roles. But
I didn't know it was original. It was Q. They're John Delancey, right? Was it John Delancey?
Oh, I didn't see that one.
Oh,
Is Q been in this as well?
Yeah,
Blink and you'll miss him. Literally.
Yeah, a couple episodes back. Yeah.
Okay. I didn't know
We've
that.
got-
Yeah, this is Riker and Troy from Nemesis, right? They got married in Nemesis.
They did.
Right. So
Oh, actually,
that
no.
doesn't
Was
look
it Nemesis?
like
Yes,
the
it
guy
was.
from that doesn't look like the guy from Lower Decks. I mean, look at him. He's got like a waist. It's like he's in his like mid-40s.
Wait, that picture's not right. It should be redone. Data's meant to be standing next to Picard so he can touch his bum, shouldn't he? Because they were in love, weren't they? Those guys were in love, weren't they?
Isn't this
Bond?
Keith lost it? Keith lost it.
They dare not speak its name. I think you're right. Yeah.
Do you know what? They'll go retro this. They'll go back to that picture and they'll change the order. That's what they're
And they've got
doing.
to be shorter than Troy because you kind of
Yeah.
I think this is from a cut scene as well because I believe that certainly Will Wheaton and maybe Whoopi were both cut from that movie. I can't quite.
They were. Yeah, they're in
So-
the if you on the home media version, they're in the deleted scenes. There is a deleted scenes section, and it's got Guinan and Wesley in scenes, but they weren't in the finished film. So yeah.
What
and
on earth is she wearing?
you shout "Shut up, Wesley" as soon as you see him. Shut up, Wesley.
Yeah, it's not a nice.
Well,
pic,
well, Will Wheaton is supposedly Crusher, should I say, is supposed to be serving on the Titan, I believe. I think
I
he was
hope
him and Tuvok were I believe so. I believe the Titan. Obviously, Riker was the captain, and Troy was his wife and the counselor on there. But I believe that Tuvok from Voyager was assigned as their tactical officer, and Wesley was the helms person, I think, but I might have that wrong because I'm not an aficionado on this stuff. But I believe
there you go. Anybody out there who reads the Titan
Yeah,
books, who
yeah,
knows
I
all that sort of stuff,
I've
get in
not read
touch,
them.
let us know
Yeah.
in the comments section. I genuinely would like to know about all that. I'm far too lazy. I'm far too lazy to read it.
So here's the question though: is Tuvok working on the Titan, or is he Admiral Chekhov's chief of staff?
Yeah, the actor played. Yeah,
Is it?
of course. I was about to say that. Didn't the actor play someone in the movie?
No. This was a fan film called
Was it?
Renegades, where
I
he
don't
was Chekhov's chief of staff or something.
No,
Right,
he
that-
was Keith. Was he in a movie? Was he in one of the movies? The guy plays Tuvok. Was
Oh
he in
yeah,
one of the movies?
Tim Russ was in Generations, but he
That's
wasn't
it.
playing
Yes,
Tuvok.
of
He was
course,
playing
of
a,
Right,
yeah.
a human Starfleet officer
it, yeah.
who looks incredibly like Tuvok. But yeah,
Yeah, that
Bring
was
back
it.
Tuvix. That's what I say.
oh no, don't go there.
I like Tuvix. I like that episode.
I think they should do an entire JJ movie in the Kelvin verse where Tuvix exists and Tuvok and Neelix don't. I think that would be a good alternative. Yes, so we are at the end of season 1 of Lower Decks, guys. I'm amazed we've made it. I know your shields were blown out several weeks ago, Rabbi. They did give us an element from all 9 previous episodes in this finale, just as a bit of a lap of honor. But you just brought back all the horrors that we've been through in the last 2.5 months. But I'm going to have to ask you now to score the entire series out of 10. Just very simply, how many out of 10 would you give Lower Decks season 1?
Me? I'm going first.
Yes, you first.
Okay, so as a Star Trek series or as a piece of entertainment?
That's a piece of entertainment.
Okay, so as a piece of entertainment,
All encompassing.
as a piece of entertainment, minus 607.
Okay, fair go. Yes, okay.
And as a piece of Star Trek, minus 7,420,000.
Oh, dear.
Are very accurately come by.
Ian, how do you feel about it? Can you score it out of 10, or is it just that off the scale?
Just
Impossible?
basically, look, the last episode was mildly entertaining. I'd give it a 2 out of 10.
Yeah, I think I'd probably be hovering between the 2 and 3 mark at the very most. 'Cause I do think the animation's quite nice, and I do. There's certain things about it which, again, there's something underneath it. It's probably the Seth MacFarlane
Yeah.
element. I agree, Rabbi. It probably is. Keith, where are you sitting with this now? Because although you've got your own take on where it belongs in Star Trek and how you're working it through, your own form of therapy
It's
with Lower
sad,
Decks.
isn't it? It's sad.
Can you score this out of 10?
Out of 10, I mean, for me, it's only like a 3 out of 10. I'm just not that. I mean, I appreciate certain things in it, and the animation is good, and some of the production values are nice. But it's in terms of a piece of Star Trek entertainment, it's just not my bag, I'm afraid. So, so that. By the way, I was looking up while we were talking there as well, and I'm half right. So basically, Tuvok does indeed serve as one of the crew members on Titan, but I can't see anything here about Wesley Crusher, so I guess I got that bit wrong. But yeah, the known characters are Riker, Troy, Tuvok, and then the other characters are written specifically for the series of novels.
Wow.
Now we know that it does sound like its very own corner. I know there's a lot of people out there who are really, really invested in it in the same way that the Doctor Who fans are with certain things connected with the Big Finish audio range of the comics and the books and all that sort of thing. It's great that those books have carried on in the meantime, and I'd hate to think it has been. I used to read some for a while, but that does wrap up our coverage of Lower Decks Season 1. You'll be pleased to learn. We appreciate there are lots of people out there. Well, okay, there are some people out there who have enjoyed this. If you think we've got it all wrong, prove to the rabbi that you are out there. You exist. Let us know. Let us know what we're missing. Let us know in the comment section. Like the video and subscribe to the channel because there will be more Star Trek coming. So like and subscribe to the channel and fill us in. Sell us on the gems of Lower Decks that we simply haven't been able to see. They're not shiny enough for us, or we're not clever enough to notice them. Whatever it is, whatever you think it is, I don't know. But yes, for now, that is it. Heaven knows when that'll be on, guys. I think I won't be holding my breath. Let's be honest. But yeah, I've wanted animated Star Trek for quite a long time. I'm not one of these who says, because we're seeing this again with Prodigy. People are saying if it's not live action, it's not canon, it doesn't count. That's not how I feel about it. I love animation. I like the idea of Star Trek being in animated form for whoever, either for kids or for older people. But they simply are. I've said this before several weeks ago. I'm going to say it again now. Unless they know who they're aiming for, how are we supposed to know what the show is about, what it's fundamentally saying, and how is it supposed to make a broader cultural impact?
Right.
People will have forgotten about this probably by Christmas, certainly by February, and who knows? We'll see what happens in the future. I'm not seeing great success and longevity for Lower Decks at the moment myself, but I'm hoping. Obviously, I'm hoping that it's going to be good. I'm hoping that Star Trek can turn around because I'd love Star Trek. Let's get that out of the way. But yes,
do you know what would be really interesting is if they have another Comic Con and all this bear bug thing is gone, and people, crowds came. It'd be interesting to see what the crowds would say or would shout, or when they're on stage.
It would.
It'd be interesting to see how they would react.
Because on those pre-recorded panels, that you were talking about, Ian,
Yeah, but the question still remains, are we right? Is the majority of fans upset with Star Trek, or are we just in a bubble? Who knows?
We are.
Firstly, this is the universe we're living in now. Remember that episode of TNG when people started vanishing, and it eventually got to the point where there's a structural fault that the Enterprise was too big for the universe, and they're really in that little what's going on now? Right? So that's what's happened to Star Trek fandom. We are shrinking, and the bubble is getting much smaller, but it's just people are vanishing. Star Trek fans are vanishing because Star Trek is bad. Do
you guys think that the actors, say for instance in Discovery, or the actors that do the voiceovers for Lower Decks or Picard, do you think that they agree with us or not agree with us, or do you think that they're talking because they need their jobs? Do you reckon that they know it's crap? I don't know. This really fascinates me.
The truth of the matter is, and this is coming from as an actor myself that would love to be in something like Star Trek, obviously, but most of the time, actors that do these things are not Star Trek fans and don't necessarily care about that stuff. To them, it's a job, it's work, paid income, and focused purely on their character and not concerned with continuity and all of that sort of stuff. You know what I mean? They're just doing their acting to the best of their ability. So I don't know whether they necessarily give a shit what the Star Trek fans say.
The question is, are they aware of what
I think probably not. Well, I mean, I don't know. Well, because I'm sure they don't look. I'm sure they don't scour the internet. You know, angry people.
I think that's no. I think they do.
I tell you, hearing you're an actor, I really want to see a fan film with you as a captain. You'd be a great captain.
Do it, yes, please.
Yeah.
Do we know anybody who could make
Captain Keith? Captain Keith.
Oh no.
No.
Yeah, that'd be interesting.
Bring me up.
That's a good. The wristband he just clicked into it then, didn't he? I don't know. You heard it here first, everybody.
I think they do know what's going on, and I think they obviously are scared to talk out and to speak out. Otherwise, they lose their standing. There's a lot of actors, you know, as same thing what's happening with Doctor Who, same thing's happening with Star Trek. They're scared to speak out because it's their bread and butter, isn't it? So,
with something like this where they're not even on set, they're one component of the production process, until they have some idea, until it's being consumed, they hear some of the reaction, they don't know how well this has been received. They can't know. And so they're probably going to reach that place with how they feel about it and how they connect with it based on the feedback they get from their audience, from their public, from their fandom. If all of a sudden the fan letters or the fan requests for selfies at convention, if they dry up because, oh God, I was in Lower Decks, then they're going to know. It's going to become quite obvious. So I think it's like a two-way thing. It's an organic.
But I don't think those things do dry up though, because for the fact that we and people we know might not necessarily like.
Having said that, stuff, I did see a picture of Tosin. Keith, I did see a picture of Tosin Cole from Doctor Who at a recent signing event. Sat there, poor guy, the guy who plays Ryan. Well, you'd be forgiven. Even people who have watched it don't know.
I have no idea what
you've seen. He's just sat there, sort of with his hands up like this, waiting. There's crowds and lines waiting to speak to everybody else. He's just sit there, sort of picking his nose, waiting. Poor guy. And that's after 2 seasons of I was going to say mediocrity. I think that would be generous, don't you?
Yeah, but that says everything. 2 seasons, is an active current companion and is completely disabled. But we see that in Star Trek conventions. You have the cast of Star Trek Discovery. Their lines are empty, and you got Yoba on life support. With lines going around the bloody building, whatever her name was.
Grace Lee Whitney.
I was at a Comic-Con with Jerry Ryan, and Jerry Ryan's queue was all right across the block. It was like you had to wait 10 hours to see her.
Come on.
Yeah. He was there.
And who else was there? There was somebody else there. I think it was the guy who played Tuvok. I think he was there, and nobody's queuing up to see him. Everybody's queuing up to see Jerry Ryan.
He's a really interesting man, Tim Russ. He's a musician, isn't he? And I think he's a stand-up comedian. He's a really interesting guy. Yeah. And you'd think the character of Tuvok.
He was a musician, isn't he? He plays saxophone. Yeah. He's a very well-rounded, intelligent guy. I mean, he's like very he's
directed some of those fan films, hasn't he? Yeah. I've not seen them, but he directed well as playing Tuvok. He's
also the woman that played Dale Arden. I was at Comic-Con once, and she was just sitting there.
Melody Anderson.
Yeah, me and Chris walked up to her, and we spoke to her for like half an hour. There was no one that wanted her signature at all, and she's such a nice person as well. We were talking to her for ages. It's a shame, really, because if you don't think that they don't fall out of favor with the fans, they do. Those two are prime examples.
But you know what? My feeling there is, and this is just a me thing, is okay. It's like when people say somebody has been or whatever, and I always think I would have rather been has been than a never been. You know what I mean? These guys, the fact that they're even invited to a convention, whether they're popular or not, I'm envious in that position, and you know, many of them deserve to be in that position. So that's good on them.
If you're sitting there,
I'm sure it does.
Must really hurt them, you know. That's why me and my brother went up to Mendeley and we started talking to her. Same thing with Yapet Koto from Alien. He was over there. Nobody wanted to see him. We went and spoke to him now as well. Yeah,
Bond villain, Alien star.
Exactly. Nobody wanted to talk to him. Then again, Burt Reynolds was there that time, and his queue was freaking long. So Burt Reynolds was there, so everyone would see Burt Reynolds. So do you know what I mean? So it's crazy when you think about it. But it must hurt as an actor. And as someone that's given your half your life to a show, it must hurt that nobody wants to even have your signature. You know, it's crazy, right? Absolutely.
I wish I knew.
I think that wraps us up for now. Thank you, everybody, for joining me on this 10-week mission. This first block of Warp Drive. Yes, you feel like you've been out there on the voyage yourself, don't you?
Exactly.
It's been a journey and a half. I do hope you stick around. Like this video, whether you agree with us or not. Like the video and subscribe to the channel. We are going to be talking more Star Trek here on the Spacebook in the near future. Stay tuned for that. Discovery, lots of classic Trek movies, Trek live streams, Trek podcasts, all with this same unfiltered edge. I have to tell you about something before I forget. Recently, up on the Spacebook channel, we launched this week brand new content. Teleport, a Blake 7 podcast.
I was listening to it last night. It's really, really good. Sorry.
There you go. Listen to the man. No, listen to what the man says. You were saying, Svi, you were saying, Rabbi, just tell us your wisdom. What do you think?
I'm just saying I enjoyed it. It's a great show. I'll listen to it next week. It's listen, if you like Blake 7, it could be for you. I
was waiting for you. Sorry, go
ahead. Yes, Teleport to Blake 7 podcasts actually drops every month on the 7th, of course, of every month from now on. And an entire first season of this show has been recorded by me with lots of guests from fandom, guests from the show itself, and from all other places connected with Blake 7. You're going to love it. And even if you're only just discovering Blake 7 on BritBox or whatever else, or maybe you haven't seen it for 4 decades, the promise is that although we will be talking about plot elements, of course we will be, it's going to be light on spoilers. And the idea is that it's perfectly safe listening for people who want entry into this entire fictional world of Terry Nation's Blake 7 that we love so much. Yes.
Dan, listen, you know they're showing it on BritBox. Have they done that same thing they did with the Doctor Who Blu-rays? Did they upscale it?
No, not as yet. Not as yet. There's not so much demand. That's a story itself.
That's an incredibly expensive process.
Actually, if they did a Blu-ray release, I think they should do optional updated special effects as well.
Yeah, that'd be great. Wouldn't it?
So dated, it takes you out of it.
Yeah.
And I love the updated special effects. I mean, I think it enhances. I understand that sacrilege for a lot of people. I mean, especially the Hoarder. The way that's great. You know, I think it's just.
That's an incredibly expensive thing to produce, though. They need to have the return on investment if they're going to put that into it. And I'm, Blake 7 is not such. I mean, I think it's amazing, but Blake 7 is not such a well-known show. So, yeah.
If you agree with Keith and the Rabbi about that, stay tuned, keep watching, like and subscribe to the channel, and don't miss episode 3 of Teleport, a Blake 7 podcast, where we talk about that very subject, open up all that, and we talk with people who know. And there's lots more of that to come about the possibilities for Blake 7 in the future. Yeah, you're going to have to wait and listen, but yeah, it's good stuff. Even if I say so myself, I'm as proud of this as anything else I've ever made content-wise, and the response to it so far has been better than I could have ever wished for. So thank you. Yes, but yes, check out the comment section, and it's available as both a podcast on the Spacebook's podcast on Podbean and all those places where you get your podcasts, gradually rolling out. But it's also on YouTube on this very channel. Don't miss it. Head over there now, or have a spot to eat first, and go and listen to that. But yes, and more Warp Drive comments. Yes, thanks for that review there, Rabbi. It's always appreciated. It's one thing for me to rave about it, but
I'm subscribing now. I'm subscribing now because I'm a big Blade 7 fan. So
good man. We'll be
teleport,
Keith.
yeah.
That's right. We'll be pulling you onto the Liberator in due course. No doubt we're going to get all these people on that too. These 3 suspects. Everybody loves a bit of Blake 7, I think. Yes, I'm rambling on now.
It's not coming
Thanks,
up.
everybody. No, I'll fix you up later and I'll sort you out later. Yes, thanks for watching, everybody. And yes, there'll be further episodes. We probably will talk about Lower Decks again in the future. We'll certainly be talking about Voyager again and Discovery. Let us know what you think in the comment section. But for now, you can catch Ian on the Rebecca Gold channel with his various films and web series and all that sort of thing.
Bad Day. Watch Bad Day.
All the links are in the description. The Rabbi daily imparting wisdom and tearing up all those people, the present custodians of those intellectual properties that are driving us to distraction, driving us mad. The Rabbi, you take them down every day, don't you, Rabbi?
It is my pleasure and my duty.
For the details, you can find the Rabbi's channel. All the links to all that are in the description too. But Keith, plug the podcast again, mate. Where can people hear more from you?
Absolutely. The podcast, Let's See What's Out There, and that can be found on all your usual podcast apps, whether it's Apple, Spotify, or whatever. And then my channel, Home Media Minefield, for anybody that's interested in reviews of physical media, whether it be Blu-ray, 4K, or DVD. And we've got a review special anniversary edition of The Shining coming up very soon. So please check it out.
It's a good channel, guys.
Don't miss it. Home Media Minefield.
Thank you.
All sorts of home media questions answered with our friend Keith there. Yes, stay tuned for more Star Trek from us, but that's it for now. Thanks for watching. Good night, everybody.
Bye-bye.
And that